You know that feeling, right? When you're trying to really get a handle on a big idea, something important, but you just hit this massive wall of information.
Yeah, like trying to drink from a fire hose, basically.
Exactly. Well, that's kind of what we're here for. Welcome to the deep dive. We try to take these complex sources and, boil them down.
Distill them to the essentials, the really interesting bits that hopefully stick with you.
Think of us as your shortcut to understanding what really matters in this material.
And today, we are definitely embarking on that kind of journey. It's tailored for your interest in getting knowledge efficiently. Our focus today is squarely on the core teachings, the actual content. We're looking at a transcript from a YouTube video titled "O 5 Out Chan Kien TTS Tis Chanquan."
Right. And just to be clear up front, we're zeroing in on the ideas being shared, the substance of the teaching itself, not the individuals sharing them. Our mission, really, for this deep dive is to unpack the fundamental frameworks and principles being discussed. We want to be your guides, help you navigate this effectively, aiming for clarity, maybe some actionable insights, without, getting you bogged down in every single detail.
Okay, so diving in, at the very heart of this discussion is something called the Eightfold Path. Bat-chan?
Right, a foundational concept.
Foundational, exactly. And the transcript lays out the 8 components. We have right understanding, right thought, right speech, right action.
Okay.
Right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and finally, right concentration.
And, as the source title suggests, we're kicking things off with right understanding, Chan Kin.
Yep.
It's presented as the absolute first step, the essential viewpoint, the correct perspective that sort of holds everything else up.
That's the idea. And let's unpack that a bit, right? Understanding. The source stresses it involves 2 key things. First, grasping the Buddhist teachings themselves, the Phật Pháp, the Tao Li, but also, crucially, having a deep understanding of life. Katai.
Understanding life itself. That's interesting. Does that mean you need, decades of experience?
Well, not necessarily, according to the source. It actually highlights keen observation as being really important. Yeah. So you can understand life deeply, even without, say, vast personal trials. You just need to pay attention.
Okay, that makes sense. And it raises a point about how these 8 things connect. It's not like you perfect understanding and then move on, is it?
No, not at all. The transcript points out this interplay.
Yeah.
Understanding leads to right thought, sure. But then actually doing things, right action, that feeds back and deepens your initial understanding.
Oh, like a cycle.
Exactly, a reinforcing cycle. There's a good example given, generosity, or bothi.
Okay.
You might understand it intellectually first. Generosity is good, fine. Yeah. But then you actually practice giving. You see the effects, the complexities, the feelings involved.
Right.
And that experience refines your understanding. It makes it real, lived, not just a concept.
So learning by doing in a very practical sense. Now, only mentioned early on, alongside right understanding is right livelihood. Chanmang.
Yes, right livelihood. This is about how you earn your living. It needs to be ethical, righteous. The transcript is quite specific here, mentioning avoiding jobs that generate negative karma. Things like selling alcohol, being involved in slaughtering animals.
The harmful professions.
Precisely. Or trading weapons, drugs. It sets clear boundaries.
And there seems to be a practical side to this as well. The source suggests needing a stable material life first.
That's right. Meeting your basic needs through right livelihood provides a necessary foundation. It suggests it's hard to focus properly on deeper spiritual growth if you're constantly worried about survival. You need that stability.
Okay. So ethical living, stable foundation, then what?
Well, the discussion then gestures towards the later stages. Right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. These are presented as delving more into mental and spiritual cultivation, typically building on that ethical groundwork laid earlier.
It's really striking how this Eightfold Path is laid out. It feels less like abstract philosophy and more like a practical, logical system.
Very much so. And it's deeply tied to the principle of cause and effect, Anqua. Understanding that actions have consequences.
Yeah.
And what's really emphasized in the transcript is this idea that the core structure, the Eightfold Path itself, is fixed, unchangeable.
Fixed? How so?
It's presented as a fundamental truth, something all enlightened beings recognize and teach in the same sequence, suggesting it's tapping into some universal principle.
Wow. Which really highlights why getting that first step, understanding, is so critical then. It's not just step 1, it's the bedrock.
Absolutely. And as we said with generosity, there's that constant back and forth, thinking about being ethical might lead you to act ethically.
Acting ethically deepens your understanding of why it matters.
Exactly, that dynamic interplay.
You mentioned right livelihood applying differently.
Yes. The transcript clarifies that for monastics, it means relying on community support honestly, without manipulation. For lay people, it's about choosing honest and ethical professions.
Okay. This whole structure, it leads into an analogy the Source uses, doesn't it? The idea of a map.
Yes, the map analogy for the path of practice.
Right.
Understanding is like getting your bearings on that map, knowing where you are to begin with.
Makes sense. You can't get anywhere if you don't know your starting point.
Or your destination.
Mm-hmm.
The transcript mentions clear goals are important too, like liberation, jai thought, or enlightenment, even the ability to help guide others.
看淡化诚信.
Right. But the key is the map has to start from your current situation. Right, not some imagined future state.
Exactly. It has to be relevant to where you are now. And this map, the Source suggests, is something you kind of draw yourself based on learning from teachers, from texts.
But that immediately flags a problem, doesn't it? How do you know if a teacher or a text is giving you an accurate map?
That's a crucial question. The transcript offers 2 criteria for a good teacher. Their teachings need to be logical, kali, make sense rationally.
Okay, logic. And second, they need to be engaging or inspiring, vishtu. There needs to be that connection, that spark, that motivates you to actually practice. You need both reason and inspiration.
Got it. So avoid teachers who aren't logical, even if they're inspiring, or vice versa.
Well, the transcript specifically warns against teachings that might sound appealing but lack that logical grounding or contradict core principles. There's an example given. The idea you can get instant enlightenment just by seeing everything as empty. It sounds profound, maybe, but it bypasses the necessary ethical conduct and mental training.
Right. It skips the steps laid out in the Eightfold Path.
Precisely. It contrasts that superficial appeal with the gradual, comprehensive nature of the path, ethics, discipline, wisdom, all working together.
Is there another example of a potential pitfall?
Yes. Another one mentioned is focusing only on reciting a Buddha's name just to get reborn somewhere nice, without actually living ethically or trying to help others. This kind of narrow focus is even compared to extremist groups who put their religious goals above everything else, neglecting compassion or broader responsibilities. It highlights the need for balanced personal practice and benefiting others.
So the ultimate check is...
The transcripts emphasizes grounding everything in the Buddha's original teachings. Contemporary teachers are valuable, yes, but the original texts are presented as the final reference point.
Okay. And this leads to a really fascinating phrase, almost a mantra, for developing right understanding.
Yes. Unming chuado.
Which means...
Right, but not yet enough.
Right, but not yet enough. I like that.
It's powerful, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It encourages continuous learning. It stops you from getting complacent, thinking you've figured it all out.
So, like, I might understand cause and effect on one level.
Exactly. That's right. But is your understanding deep? Do you see all the nuances? Probably not yet. So it's right, but not enough. Keep exploring. Or maybe you achieve some mental calm in meditation.
Also right.
Also right, but it's just one step. There's further to go,
right,
but not yet enough.
It implies a kind of scientific mindset almost, always questioning, looking deeper.
In a way. Though the transcript draws a distinction, scientific knowledge evolves, theories get replaced. But here, the idea is that the core Buddhist truth, coming from an enlightened source, are constant. The not yet enough part is about our understanding, deepening, and elaborating on those truths, not the truths themselves changing.
That's a key distinction, and the scale of this not yet enough seems vast. The source mentions even advanced bodhisattvas.
Yes, the Mahayana teaching that even they haven't fully perfected
right.
understanding. It just underscores how incredibly deep and vast this path is.
Which naturally leads to humility.
Absolutely. Recognizing that our understanding is always partial, always evolving. Humility is essential for developing understanding.
Is there an analogy for that vastness?
There is. The Buddha's comparison of the leaves in his hand versus all the leaves in the forest. What he taught is like the leaves in his hand, essential, practical. But the totality of knowledge is like all the leaves in the forest, immense.
So don't get overwhelmed trying to grab all the leaves at once.
Exactly. Allow understanding to grow naturally, organically, integrated with practice.
Okay, so that's the frame. Now, the discussion digs into some specific pillars, the core tenets of right understanding. Where does it start?
It starts with the big one, the law of cause and effect. Lu Tunquan Geth Bao.
Karma.
Fundamental. Absolutely fundamental. Good actions lead to good results. Bad actions lead to bad results. Simple in principle, incredibly complex in reality. And an important clarification made is that karma usually involves interaction between beings. It's not always just isolated actions, though our intentions themselves definitely create karma.
Can you give an example from the source?
Sure. One example is digging a road. If doing so causes minor, ongoing damage or inconvenience to others' vehicles over time, that can slowly accumulate negative karma.
Wow, okay. Subtle.
It can be. On the positive side, simply cultivating thoughts of compassion, even without immediate action, generates positive karma. And the Force also mentions collective karma, how the actions of many affect whole communities or nations.
And there's a connection made between helping others and our own minds.
Yes, a crucial one. Engaging in positive, selfless actions towards others is said to directly contribute to your own mental peace, your ability to meditate effectively.
So helping others isn't separate from your own path, it is part of it.
It is part of it. The transcript suggests selfless actions can even lead towards liberation. It references the Diamond Sutra King Kim Kang, saying the path to stilling the mind involves dedicating oneself to leading all beings to nirvana.
That really emphasizes active engagement, doesn't it? Not just passively avoiding bad, but actively doing good.
Exactly. Encouraging and performing good deeds aligns with right understanding. Discouraging them or being passive does not.
Okay, so karma is pillar one. What else is essential for right understanding?
The Four Noble Truths, Tudyoku, are mentioned briefly as another core component. And then the discussion moves to a really profound one, the doctrine of no self, Vongan.
Ah, yes. This one can be a bit mind-bending. The idea that there's no permanent, fixed, independent me inside. Anatta.
It is challenging. The transcript uses an analogy. Imagine spinning a firebrand really fast. It looks like a solid circle of fire, right?
Yeah.
But it's not. It's just the rapid movement of a single point of fire creating an illusion. Similarly, the rapid flow of thoughts, feelings, perceptions creates the illusion of a solid, unchanging self.
Okay, that helps. How does this differ from other ideas, like a soul?
Well, the source contrasts it with the Hindu concept of Atman, a permanent, eternal soul. It also connects it to Buddhist ideas of emptiness, sunyata, and dependent origination, how things only exist in relation to other things. It also acknowledges that other traditions might talk about purifying the mind to reach a kind of true self or shangan, but insists the Buddha's insight went further to realizing complete non-self.
And the benefit of realizing this non-self?
According to the source, it leads to boundless compassion because there's no fixed self separate from others and profound wisdom.
Okay, karma, Four Noble Truths, no self. What's next?
Impermanence. Wotuan.
The idea that everything changes.
Everything. Nothing stays the same. Sometimes the change is fast, obvious. Sometimes it's incredibly slow, almost imperceptible, but it's still happening.
And understanding this helps how?
It's key for cultivating equanimity. If you truly understand that good times won't last forever, you become less attached, less likely to cling desperately. And if you understand that bad times will also pass, you become less averse, less likely to fall into despair. It helps you stay balanced, which of course is huge support for meditation.
But there's a warning here too, isn't there? About becoming indifferent.
Yes, a very important caution. Understanding impermanence shouldn't lead to apathy like, oh, well, nothing matters. It needs to coexist with compassion and ethics. You still appreciate the good, you're still grateful for it while it lasts, and you still actively reject and work against the harmful, even knowing it too will eventually change. It's a balanced understanding.
Right, so not indifference, but non-attachment combined with ethical action.
Exactly.
Are there any other key tenets discussed?
Yes, two more areas are highlighted. One is meditation, or mental stillness, Thian, or Tamanik.
As per right understanding, I thought that came later in the path.
Well, right, concentration is the final step in the sequence, yes. But cultivating mental stillness, inner peace, is presented here as both a goal of the whole path and also a perspective within understanding itself. It's like the ultimate aim is this inner stability, this peace. And the measure of your progress, according to the source, is how much inner peace you can maintain when faced with life's ups and downs.
Ah, so it's not just the end goal, but also a constant benchmark and focus throughout the practice, right from the start.
Precisely. And the final point is absolutely crucial. Applying Dharma to all aspects of life.
Meaning not just keeping these ideas for when you're meditating or on retreat.
Exactly. It's about using these principles, karma, impermanence, no self, to analyze and understand everything that happens in the world in your daily life. There's a quote from the sixth patriarch Lukto, Tat Fab Taitijan, Batli Tatyanchagan.
Which means?
Buddha Dharma is in the world. Awakening is not apart from the world. You find understanding right here, in everyday life, not by escaping it.
So how might that look practically?
The transcript suggests analyzing things like, say, a dispute between neighbors. You could see it through the lens of maybe a lack of tolerance or clinging to ego, or analyzing an economic downturn.
Maybe seeing it connected to a decline in collective merit or wise action?
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
Looking for the deeper causes based on these principles. There's also a caution against mistaking superficial things, like lots of wealth and entertainment in a society, as genuine progress.
Why is that?
Because, viewed through this lens, it could actually be a sign of decline if resources are being wasted unwisely, suggesting a depletion of collective good karma.
That's a challenging perspective. It really asks you to look deeper.
It does. And this circles back to the beginning, right? Understanding isn't something you just get and then you're done. It's presented as this continuous process of learning, applying, reflecting, and deepening your insight throughout your entire practice.
Okay, wow. That was a lot to cover.
It was. So just to quickly recap for you listening, in this deep dive, drawing from that transcript, we've looked at the Eightfold Path, really zoning in on right understanding as the starting point. We talked about that map analogy needing a clear direction, starting from where you are, and choosing reliable guides based on logic and inspiration.
Right, yeah.
And we explored those core tenets of right understanding: karma, the Four Noble Truths, the challenging idea of no self, impermanence, the importance of mental stillness throughout, and finally applying these insights to absolutely everything in life.
So as you, our listener, reflect on all this, maybe take a moment. How do these principles resonate with your own understanding? How might they shift the way you approach your life, your learning, your own path?
Yeah, and remember, this deep dive is really just scratching the surface. It's an introduction. We definitely encourage you, if this sparked your interest, to explore the source material further or related Buddhist teachings.
And perhaps the thought to leave you with, to mull over, is that powerful phrase we discussed.
Right, but not yet enough.
It's that constant invitation, isn't it? To keep learning, keep reflecting, keep going deeper. What further understanding, what new perspectives might open up for you as you continue your own journey of exploration?